Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Dior, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 13. I don't think there's anything to report. I don't remember if I've mentioned that Hilda's now maxed out on casting enchants. If not, that's the change. Was definitely a bit tired this week. Been busy with work and starting a new tabletop game and all sorts of stuff. But of course, I need my weekly win, and I was a bit nervous about it, simply because 2 losses in a row would essentially bring me back down to Gold 3, which I would still get the Gold 2 rewards, but I did exactly want to lose Gold 2 after working so hard to get it. I did lose a match prior to this. It was against an assassin box, but it was one that had a lot of unique characters. There was a Lisa in it, an old Zeretta of all things. Even had Wandering Duelist in there as well. I think the biggest issue, though, was I went ahead and took the risk and allowed my opponent to pick a Boro, which he definitely first picked. And I was able to kill a Boro when he transformed, but the result ended up just flat out the fixed damage he sends back at you when he dies just completely destroyed my Auden Kelmo. So yeah, a Boro is a no-go. I definitely don't want to deal with him. One mistake I've also been kind of making is I've mentioned before I've been pretty wary about Sword and Light and Shadow because of previous matches. But if my opponent lets me have Lightbringer, I don't really need to show that same caution. Simply because the biggest issue when dealing with her is she can bypass self-resing, and she can dispel buffs. So even if you use something like Gossip-Bolt, she could potentially dispel it. In which case, then you get hit with the debuff, and then she just has to kill you once. But with Lightbringer, you don't really need to worry about the dispels, in which case you have a lot more flexibility on your options as far as preventing the res negation. In any case, my opponent banned Sword and Light and Shadow first. As for the box, Girl in the Shell here, which is pretty cool. SP Matthew, which is a infantry SP Matthew. Original Ares, Tensei Jessica. It's kind of a mix of AoE and a bit of assassin. Also Marielle, of all things. That's another thing I've been running into is Marielle's kind of hit and miss. Against a particularly tanky group of assassins, she doesn't do as well, especially if there's no tank to actually bounce off of. That's something I've also ran into, unfortunately. In any case, they banned my Sword and Light and Shadow, and I banned their Sword and Light and Shadow in return. Again, I didn't really need to do this, I feel. I could have just gotten away with it by just taking Lightbringer, which I did take Lightbringer anyway. So, notice a lot of the second bans I've been running into have been banning my Grunchiel, preventing me from having the usual shenanigans she can do, as well as the strategic faction buffer. Opens with Jintoki here. At this point, I go ahead and get. I took a long time for this particular ban because I wasn't sure what direction to go, and I was like, my opponent has let me still hasn't banned any of my healers, including Rosenseal. So I was like, you know what? I'll just ban all of their assassins because they were giving me problems in the previous match, and I'll let them have their AoE because I'm gonna have Rosenseal. So that's what I did. Also, I banned. Polyol here because she gives it so much extra mobility, it's not worth risking. My opponent went ahead and banned my assassin as well as my my Connie. Sorry, names are failing me at the moment. And looking at their box, they don't exactly have any. They have Rosenseal, and that's it as far as primary healers are concerned. So yeah, even though I didn't have a strategic faction buffer, they can't risk Connie just blasting away from a long distance. They go ahead and take Ares. So I went and banned their tank and healer at this point. And I take Lucretia, since they left me with her. Lucretia, I've had a bad... against Ares, original Ares, my Lucretia tends to die a lot because of the double tap. But with Rosenseal, I felt like if he does go AoE, I should be able to potentially survive it. Lose more of my DPS as well as my Ironblood Commander. They take SP Matthew at this point. I'll go ahead and get rid of Marielle. Their Marielle, get rid of Wedham. I didn't want to deal with his stupid sword throwing nonsense, and Marielle can bypass guard without applying a debuff, because it's a self-buff, unfortunately. So I was kind of okay with them having Sherry, because her assassination potential is pretty not great. So I felt like I was going to be able to just tank it if she does go after me. Go ahead and take Marielle at this point. I didn't really have very many options at this point, because obviously I had my 3 healers and my tank left. My opponent opted to go ahead and ban my remaining tank. I don't know why. I'm guessing... Well, actually, I know why. My opponent's shifting focus to single target, and so the idea, I'm guessing, is just to try to punch through Lightbringer. And then, of course, banning Liana for the act again. But leaving me with these 2 characters was completely fine by me. They take SP Elwyn, which I mean, SP Elwyn definitely applies a lot of pressure as far as his high mobility, but beyond that, like, he can't do anything against Lightbringer. I take Elma just to completely shut down. Well, one, I've been to the point where they have nothing but casters left, and I took Elma, which of course can reduce magic damage, as well as do all sorts of other stuff like passively heal against AoEs and all that. Alright. So, as always, it's counting tiles time. So, a big thing here is 1, 2, 3, 4, that's his range. One thing to point out about this Ares, though, is he did go single target. So, that's actually really good for me, because now I don't have to worry about double tap from AoEs. Of course, with Rose and Seal and Elma, I felt like I was going to be able to deal with it. The biggest issue now is Ares can, of course, teleport everyone around him, and that can definitely displace my formation, which can be a bit dangerous. Matthew brought Sprint, and he brought his usual AoE annoyances and went Angels. Jintoki, standard kit, went Sansi Mercenaries, and then Elwyn, standard kit here, and Unicorns. Sorry, I'm getting messages on Facebook. And then Girl in the Shell is... went Link Smash, and then her other exclusives, and went Sorceresses. So, I already counted the spaces. 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so Girl in the Shell just did her thing. I didn't really pay attention to any of her 3C stuff. Anything she could potentially get, I can either resist or reflect, so I wasn't that worried about it. Biggest issue I was kind of concerned about was Jintoki, but that's about it. Everything else, Lightbringer should be able to tank. I originally did not look up Ares' stuff, so that's kind of why I spread out so far, because I wasn't aware he didn't bring his AoE. He still has his teleport AoE that he does after his little charge, but that's about it. So, usual stuff you've seen before. I did go ahead and summon the Rod here as soon as possible to get that up and running, and kind of got this nice little triangle formation going. So yeah, at this point I was pretty safe. I counted steps again just in case. So here's the sprint, so additional 1 mobility as well as the attack buff on top of it. So with that, Elwyn can definitely attack, but it'll be guarded, and he can't reach. He's just short of reaching Marielle. And then meanwhile, Ares here can go 1, 2, 3, 4. He can't actually reach Lucretia, even though she's outside guard range. So for right now, I go ahead and just kind of start moving up a bit more. I start shuffling down to kind of start getting Lucretia into formation here. The only thing I should be a little bit careful of is Ares can move through units, so he can get behind us and be an annoyance that way. Having Lucretia is really nice because obviously I can keep refreshing the faction buff a lot faster. The biggest issue with Marielle, by the way, is she eats up her buffs really quickly. So I got hit with Scooter Dash here. I don't know what the point was, because there's no follow-up. Well, sorry, there is a follow-up. He could potentially run up and attack, but I can, through the use of Arcane Golem swapping places with Lucretia, I can potentially go and attack Jintoki. Currently, he's only immune to speed negation and passive skill negation, so if I hit him with 3C, I can fully debuff him. The only issue, of course, is it will put me out of guard range, but the only person that can kill Lucretia with a self-res is Ares, so I was actually okay with this trade. So refreshing the buff faster. So about 28,000 damage, or 28,000 health to go through. Yeah, not. Oh my god, 51,000. All right. So I did give a buff to Elwyn there, but it's not a big deal. So here comes Fearless Hurricane. He's gonna charge up. Needless to say, this is gonna hurt. But the big thing here is he had to stay close in order to trigger the AoE, because else I would just heal through it. Okay, looks like there was no follow-up after that. But yeah, so he couldn't pull away. I don't think he could have pulled away anyway, because he had no movement left, I don't think. But in any case, he did finish off Lucretia with the AoE part. Marielle is definitely way out of position, but I'm not too worried about it. And then the only other characters that are out of position are my Golem and my Relic, which is not a big deal. So with that, I go ahead and dispel his buffs with 3C. I do have 50% reduced damage because of the commandment, but it still almost killed him. But more importantly, my mobility went up, so I can loop around this way. I did go ahead and use God King's Wrath, simply for the extra step of mobility after attacking. That way I can get into guard range. Else, Elwyn would have reached me. Magic damage against a... This is the mistake I've done. This is against a thing that has magic resistance. So unfortunately I was not able to get kill on the staff, which is pretty bad. It looks like she did... that was her... Yeah, she was doing... 1.3 times damage, and after battle, it silences enemy skills, which is not that it doesn't really matter. So yeah, she just couldn't do it. She was just short on doing enough damage. Another function upgrade, which honestly I don't think is that useful. Function upgrades are usually debuffs. I'm pretty sure that one was the Lucretia version where it spams a bunch of debuffs. So yeah, both my Golem and my staff were out of range, so what I did is I used Light Recall on the Golem, and then I used the staff's own teleport to bring it back into guard range. So the trade here was I lost Lucretia, but I took out both their Ares and their Jintoki. Elwyn by himself definitely cannot get through Lightbringer's troops. And this Matthew is set up for AoEs. So he ran in, did Skybreaker drop. He ended up getting himself debuffed in return, because I reflected it with the mirrors. He did steal some stacks of Mirror Light, and then stole some buffs from everyone else, which is a little annoying, but not the end of the world. Big thing here is he did rewind, so he does have his Skybreaker drop again, but as you saw from the damage here, it practically did nothing. The Light Flame was able to tank it and able to heal everyone again. Also, the Light Flame got a bunch of healing just simply passively from being teleported near Rose Seal there. So at this point, I go ahead and do the Mass Crystal Healing, which pretty much is going to nullify everything that remains. The only thing that's kind of slowing me down right now is I have to keep everyone within Lightbringer's guard range because Elwyn will strike at any moment, and I don't have Commandment anymore. So I need to make sure I can get kill before going out of range. The other issue right now is all of Marielle's stuff is on cooldown except for her move again. So any attack she does is just going to be a raw attack. So I did reapply faction buff. I reapply the mirrors. I fell back with the golem because obviously I don't really need it besides using it to reduce cooldowns. And my opponent's just kind of falling back at this point. Which is fine. I'm fine with pushing in because there's not much I need to worry about. And thanks to the golem, I can pass turns and force my opponent to take actions before they're ready to do so. And as you can see from the damage here, without faction buff and all that good stuff, she really can't do anything. And she also got a bunch of debuffs reflected back at her. So another Skybreaker drop. One of the issues I ran into, besides the fact I used let my opponent have a Burrow in the previous match, was I was also rushing too much when I couldn't really back it up. So in this battle, I definitely took my time because there was no point in me wasting any actions. Even if I did lose Marielle, it's pretty safe that I would probably still win. Because the only healing they have is if Girl in the Shell actually gets something up and running, or whatever self-healing they happen to get. So yeah, 3C, as you can see, just nothing. He cannot pierce through. And he doesn't have a way of following up. So with that he just gives up. Because yeah, I would just be able to kill him and then kill Matthew in the next round. Like I said, the thing that was slowing me down was the fact I didn't really have any attack skills left because Marielle used hers. So, but even then, as you can see, it was good enough. So the good news is I did win a match, so I do have rank protection again, so I can lose a match safely without losing a rank. And yeah, we're still chugging along here. We're sitting at 64% win rate. I don't think I'm going to get beyond Gold 2 at this point. It's just I don't really have the time, and the matches are actually getting pretty difficult. So it is what it is. Next week, or this upcoming Thursday, I suppose, is going to be, I believe, the collab characters. So that'll change up the box a bit, and hopefully we can put them to use. With that, I am The Depressed Hero. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 13. I'll see you guys next time.